You ready to do this, Stu?
I am ready, Spencer. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, Super Friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Stu Jones.
How's it going?
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 78. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Stu, welcome back once again, my friend. How are you?
I'm actually pretty fantastic. I have not gone to Portland in over a week and seen. No, I'm doing good. It's been a good week.
So what has happened in your life in the last week since we've last talked?
Well, I think you mean last talked on the podcast because we did talk a bit when we went and saw Deadpool Tool on Sunday.
That's true. We saw Deadpool Tool.
It was really good. I'm really glad that we went. I honestly think I don't like it as much as the first one. I know a lot of people do, but it was close. I mean, it was still really good. But
I think I liked it a little bit more, actually.
Really?
Not a lot, but just a little bit.
Interesting. We'll have to talk about why later when the recording's off, because spoilers, you know.
Yeah, very spoilery.
Also been living it up in EverQuest and EverQuest 2 per usual, but also kind of starting to dabble into Lord of the Rings Online.
Uh-oh, look out.
Yeah, feeling the draw, found a good kinship, which is a guild there. Seems to kind of be a match made in MMO heaven, so we'll see how that goes. But
so is this like an Arwen Aragorn match made in Lotro?
No, it's more like Pippin and Merry.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's Lotro code for friends.
Gotcha.
No, but yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Other than that, just so
let me ask you
working
this.
and daughter.
Let me ask you this real quick. Talking about Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah.
Is the draw to that it's just another MMO, or is that it's different and so it's something different, or is it that the IP of Lord of the Rings, it's Tolkien, it's the Middle Earth, is that the draw for you? Or is it like a mechanics issue? Like there's certain things you like there that it offers that other games like World of Warcraft or EverQuest don't have?
It's actually kind of a combination of a few things. One, I tend to have a pretty low attention span, so I haven't played it for a few years, so seeing all the new stuff, they kind of went in maintenance mode for a while. They had some shakeup with people and stuff, and now they're really kind of developing it pretty hard. And they came out with Mordor a little while ago, and so I'm kind of excited to see the new content and areas of the game and some of the new mechanics. But also it's Tolkien, and there's just not so much the lore, which is appealing in and of itself, obviously, but also the people that play Tolkien, they're more inclined to actually roleplay, which you don't see in MMOs anymore. Yeah, people that play hobbits, they want to play hobbits for a reason, and they're talking about stuff they do in the Shire. There are people that actually gather around just to play music because there's actually a music system in the game. It just has a real immersive feel to it, and then also the classes and stuff are actually really fun. So it's kind of all around something that I really enjoy, and I'm looking forward to kind of diving into it again. Usually I stop playing because I'm awkward around other people, but I don't usually have like a good kinship or whatever, and people I know leave, and so I kind of bail. But this kin looks like it may fix that. Hopefully everything works out, and but if not, it'll still be fun for a while.
You're actually making me want to play this right now, just listening to this. It sounds cool.
It is. Oh man! So they don't touch the actual story of the Lord of the Rings. Obviously, you can't affect. Sure. You can't find Frodo on the way and trip him and steal the ring. But they get as close to that as possible with this giant single arc epic quest that takes you from the very beginning of your character's prologue all the way up through Mordor, and you just kind of intertwine with the main story without affecting it. But you run into the main characters.
Cool.
You'll meet a lot of people. You'll meet a lot of enemies. The goblins are actually very goblin-y. I don't even know how to explain that any better without playing it, but like my younger daughter's mother actually played it with me for a little bit way back when, and the goblins actually kind of freaked her out. So that was appealing in and of itself. Yeah.
Wow. See, the only Lord of the Rings game, well, okay, not the only. Let's put it this way. My favorite Lord of the Rings game I've ever played was actually Lego Lord of the Rings. Because
that was so good.
It was one of the first times that they incorporated dialogue from a movie in a Lego game, because Lego games used to be silent.
Yep.
But it was actually like real dialogue from the movies. But those Lego games were just fun and kind of silly. And I played that thing on the Xbox 360. Let me start again. I played that thing on the Xbox 360 all the way through 100% completion. And then I picked it up on the PS3 and I maybe got about 75% of the way through it a second time. And then I eventually put it down and got busy with other stuff. But man, I loved that game.
Now this is extremely immersive. I mean, it's difficult to get away from feeling like you're a part of that world when you're playing it more than any other. It's definitely the most immersive MMO. Other MMOs do have better features in one way or another. I'll give it that. But they also have a really good free-to-play model. I personally subscribe. But the free-to-play model, you actually earn points while you play the game and accomplish certain deeds and things like that. And you can actually buy chunks of the game, like quest packs and stuff, with those points that then are on your account forever. So
really,
yeah, it's it's kind of grindy that way. So you have to really kind of be willing to sit through all that if you do, or you just subscribe for $15 a month and then you get access to all that stuff plus whatever expansions you buy. And
wow,
but it's pretty rewarding.
Sounds really interesting.
You're sick.
Come on and get down with the sickness in the Stapleton house.
I intentionally said you were sick. Not that you had the sickness, because I was trying to avoid that, but
oh no.
Dang it, you're beautiful, man.
Oh no. We I don't know what's going on here, but somehow, some way I've got something and I can feel like congestion. I don't know. My throat's starting to get a little sore, so I'm a little worried. Just a touch.
It's a good thing you're not doing anything right this moment that may actually, put stress on your vocals or anything like that.
The funny thing is, like, all day today, I was like, I need to be careful. I need to not talk as much. But we have a client in from our corporate office, and I'm having to walk this lady around. We're doing a hardware and a software inventory through both of these companies that were bought out. And so I've been having to talk all dang day. So much.
You know what?
That.
You can just go silent. I've got the rest of the show from here.
Perfect. I love it.
All right. So now we're going to talk about Legos all show long.
So the rest of my week, let's see here. I'm going to start off with the bad things. First, I think I'm coming down with something. That's bad.
Did you cook anything with the potbelly cooker? That is the official name now.
the potbelly cooker. No, I
okay,
did not.
So that's a bad thing too.
Yeah. I didn't cook anything in the pit barrel cooker this week. Here's the thing that really was a kind of let's say a kick in the nuts metaphorically. My engine light on my truck came on Friday. And I was like, all right, let's see what this is. And so I drop it off at the shop at my lunch break, pick up my motorcycle, and go back to work. And I got a call from the shop, and they said, yeah, it's your transmission. And it's the original transmission of my truck. It's got like 176,000 miles on it. But still, like, the truck's paid off. My wife's car's paid off. My motorcycle's paid off. We're trying to pay down this last credit card where we're trying to work out debt. We're trying to move on in our life and do some other stuff. And debt is not one of them. We don't want to carry extra stuff like that. And
sure.
Anyway, they said, "Oh, yeah, it's going to be like $2,500 or maybe $2,800 if you want the 3-year, 100,000-mile warranty." I was like, all right, let me call around. So I call around a couple other places, and all the quotes are coming in around $3,800. I was like, whoa. So I called back to my place, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it for 28. And he's like, okay. Well, with labor, it'll be 38. I'm like, dang you. So
the old bait and switch.
Yeah, he was just quoting me parts. So anyway, the truck is in the shop. It's going to be in there for like a week, and I can't drive it because the transmission is like literally dying. And so I'm going to get a transmission, a newer transmission, put in there and replaced, which was good because I'm going to plan on driving this truck till it dies. And the cost of the transmission is it's about half of the value of the truck. So it's not like where it was, going to be more than the truck's worth. But still, it's $4 freaking grand that I did not have budgeted for this. And so
Sure.
It's
well, if you need to borrow a car for the week, you can use mine. No big deal.
There you go. I rode the motorcycle today. It was a beautiful day. Hopefully the weather holds. I left a few minutes early because it looked like it was going to dump rain on me. So I got on the bike and I rode like the wind.
Yeah, I've got to get my bike back. I left it with my buddy because winter, 2 cars in the garage kind of thing. And so I used his garage space. And then by the time spring rolled around, I was in Portland all the freaking time. So I just never really had a chance to get it. And then he's been away on business and vacation stuff. And so it's just been tricky to get it back. But I need it back.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, you got to get that. I did on Saturday go on this charity ride. It was called the XOXO charity ride. Basically, we did a kind of a canyon ride up through through a mountain canyon, then kind of cut over to another one, and then back down another canyon. And we stopped at the Huntsman Cancer Institute in downtown Salt Lake City, and we took these like hand knit hats. I think I talked about it maybe a little last week, but we did that on Saturday. Man, it was so good, and it was good to be out there with my brothers on the motorcycles and ride for a charity and help them raise some money and do that. It was just a really, really good time. Great weather. I love getting out and riding. So that happened. And then, of course, this week is this is going to be like the equivalent of like Hell Week for the Marines. Of course, let's say metaphorically, because it's not going to be that big a deal. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be in the sand and in the surf, getting wet and dirty and doing push-ups.
My boot camp was in the snow.
Yeah, it's not going to be that bad. But for an IT guy, we're merging 2 companies this weekend. We're merging their email, we're merging the servers and put them on a single domain. We have to touch every single machine and run scripts to change everything. So like installing all new printers. I mean, it's a crazy amount of work. I'm building a whole new phone system. Crazy amount of work that's going on this weekend. I'm going to be working all weekend long. For the next few days, I've got the head of the IT purchasing and budgeting department from the corporate client in, and so I'm working with her. So I'm going to be super tied up, just crazy busy all week. And then, of course, on top of all this, the Fallen Patriot ride for my motorcycle club is this Saturday. And so I told them that I cannot work on Saturday. I have to be there for that. But then I'm going to go right back to work on Sunday, right back on to work on Monday.
Whoa. That's solo territory.
Yes. So there's a good chance. Okay, and this is even kills me too. Our good super friend of the show and a personal friend of mine, Jason Both, calls me up tonight and says, "Hey, what are you doing Friday night?" And I was like, "Probably working." Why? He's like, "I got an extra ticket to solo." And I'm like, "Dang you! I want your free ticket and I want to go." But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be working all Friday night.
That's rough.
So it's real hit or miss whether or not this is going to happen. I may try to hit it like a late show Saturday night because I'm taking Saturday off. So we'll see. I don't know, but anyway, craziness. But Fallen Patriot Ride. If you live in the Utah area and you listen to this podcast is going to drop on Thursday, or maybe you're listening to it on Friday. Go to fallenpatriotride.com. If you ride a motorcycle, sign up, come ride with us. We ride this year in memory of Sergeant Jesse A. Blamirez, who passed away KIA in Afghanistan. We honor those that have gone on before us, that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Sign up, come ride. If you don't ride, go on the website anyway, fallenpatriotride.com, and there's a donate button. Even if you donate a single dollar, every dollar we raise, and I mean this, every dollar we raise goes to the Warriors for Freedom Foundation. They help out veterans that are suffering from PTSD and their families, and the money goes to such a good cause. They really do work with these veterans, and they try to find a way for them to cope with the issues they have. And in this,
Well, I'll sweeten that a little bit. If any of our listeners donate and send like just an image of the receipt, I mean, you don't got to go crazy with it, but just send an image of the receipt or whatever to the email for the show. I'll match it up to $100.
Wow, that would be awesome, Stu. That would be awesome. So you guys have heard this. I'm gonna make sure I post this on social media.
Do it. Document it.
Document this. So go and do that. Donate not just to make Stu have to match you up to $100, but that's an awesome thing.
Yeah, don't make me hurt, but I'd love to. But I want to incentivize people to do it.
Right. But go and give. Like I said, every dollar, like literally every dollar that we make on this ride, we do not keep a penny of it. We give it all to the charity. It's for a great cause. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but I love it, and I know Memorial Day is coming up, and this is going to release right before Memorial Day, and this is close to my heart. Like, I love this. I put in a lot of work every year, as well as every member of my club, and we always want it to be a good, positive event. So,
well, as a veteran, I love the idea. I mean, obviously, it's a holiday for remembrance.
Yep.
But yeah, things like that bring attention not just to specific people, but also to kind of remember what Memorial Day is actually about. Kind of ironic that it's really become more of just a day off.
Right.
So there's a purpose behind it. There's a reason that it's there, and that you guys do something towards that end is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, one of the things we always say is that we want to help people remember the purpose of Memorial Day. And it's more than just, grilling brats and hot dogs and burgers and being with family.
Though those things are important. Don't take my brats. Don't take my brats.
And by all means, you can do that while paying your respects and remembering those that have gone on before us. But, for those of us that live here in the United States, I know that this podcast is listened to some other countries outside the U.S. But for those of us that live here, this is a day where we celebrate and remember the lives of, those that have served in our armed forces, that have given up their life in defense of our country, in defense of our freedom, or in defense of other countries and other freedoms around the world that we've said that we're going to stand beside them and we're going to help them out. And we're going to, stand up to tyranny and oppression. And so, it's a day that we should take a moment to remember all those that have served. So
absolutely, positively.
Anyway, other than that, man, just like I said, do what you got to do. It's going to be a great weekend. Weather here is looking great. I'm hoping weather everywhere is going to be great for the long weekend for everyone. And
well, I'm kind of dodging in and out of maybe going to Portland. Don't know. We'll see how that goes. I do. I have a date on Wednesday, so we'll see how that goes.
A date in Portland or a date here?
No, here.
Do you want to give details about this date?
Well, it hasn't happened yet, so.
Is this a new person, or is this a person you've gone on a date with before?
New
person. Mm-hmm. Can I take a guess?
Sure.
It's a female.
Oh, ooh, are you psychic?
I'm putting it out there. She has a name.
Oh, well done.
Wow. That's all I got.
Well, you were 2 for 2. You and your crystal ball are working.
Man, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm using the magic 8-ball.
She has listened to an episode of the podcast,
so high caliber.
This is just how I recruit listeners.
Taking them out on a date. You're like, listen, I'll pay for dinner, but you have to promise to listen to Fort of Nerd. Just saying.
Right, to bring in all that sweet, sweet revenue.
Nice. Well, I like that the Fortress of Nerditude is growing listenership based on your dating habits.
And my gaming habits, too.
And your gaming habits. So should I be rooting for you not to have a good date so you have to go date other people so the podcast continues to grow?
No, we are going to say that some listeners are more important than others.
Gotcha. Looking at you, Mom.
Not really.
All right, well, that's kind of all I had. Are you ready to get to some Rebel intelligence?
Beep, boop, beep, beep, boop.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, we are into Rebel Intelligence. Stu, what do you got for me this week?
Well, so the thing that I'm really kind of most Twitter-pated about right now is I'm not big on Twitter, but obviously because we have a podcast and I want to make sure to help where I can there with socializing and seeing other podcasts and stuff like that. I happened to run across this trailer for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, yeah.
And so yeah, that's my first Rebel Intelligence item. But ironically, or coincidentally, really, ironic that I use ironically that way. Coincidentally, when we went and saw Deadpool 2, we got to... man, I can't not say Deadpool 2. We got to see that larger than life. Oh my gosh, the trailer for this movie is amazing. I loved Queen growing up. Nobody could fill an auditorium or stadium, whatever the heck it was, like Queen could. And there's a story to tell there too. So hopefully they kind of touch on the low points as well as the high points. But the trailer's really well done. The mixing on the music for this trailer is freaking genius. I mean, it's got like the background of a couple, heavy beat songs, but then they also kind of intertwine it with other hits, and it's just so well done. It got me super excited in 1.5 minutes, like I haven't been for a trailer in a while.
So I'm with you. I loved the audio on this trailer because they just went from hit song to hit song to hit song, and it wasn't just like a clear break, no,
it was all mixed together.
It was all mixed together like it belonged together. It was fantastic. Here's the other thing. I love Queen. I love their music. And sometimes I go kind of like on a roller coaster of music where like I'll really get on something for a while. Like the Hamilton soundtrack, like that thing has been in heavy play for almost a year. Okay, not a year, maybe like 6 months. Like heavy play in what I'm listening to. But like I saw that Queen trailer and I listened to Queen the rest of the day. I came home that night and did yard work, and I had Queen blaring in my headphones. Like I've been listening to Queen nonstop again now because
and the royal events of the weekend, coincidentally with the Queen, it just all kind of came together.
Yeah, we stopped caring about royal weddings in 1776. I'm just teasing. Personally, I didn't watch the royal wedding because it was Saturday morning.
Us here in the colonies.
Yeah, I had places to be. I had the charity ride to go to in the morning.
I didn't watch because I didn't want to.
Yeah, it's not for me, but like I understand that's a huge, massive thing, and I know it was watched by everyone, and everywhere I turn, people are like, "Did you see this? And did you hear this?" And now, Meghan Markle can't do this because now she's a royal, and there's these rules, and and this and this and and I'm like, it's interesting. I mean, I find it very fascinating. But it's not something I want to really tie my life around for a few days.
Just think, in 500 years from now, people will be writing history about what's going on now like it's fanciful and fantastic, because I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Seriously, though, the trailer.
Tag your it. Speaking of trailers.
Yeah, speaking of trailers, right? That looks so good. Okay. So we were talking about this just a little bit ago. We were talking about like what IP we wanted to come back, and I was saying Thundercats. I want to see Lion-O. The precognition I must have had like a week or two ago because
hey, I'm telling you, we do this. We're having that effect.
Here's the deal: Thundercats is coming back as a cartoon.
Oh, I bet it's going to be amazing.
However, it looks like artwork that, let's say, a 12-year-old would draw.
A 12-year-old in 1960?
Yes.
It looks like, it reminds me of Cuphead.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's like the animation from the video game Cuphead. It reminds me of that. They're coming back, and they're going to be called Thundercats Roar. That's going to be the name of the show. It's Warner Brothers Animation. It's coming back. I'm looking at this.
It's like an amalgamation of Animaniacs and Thundercats.
Yeah, it's going to be on Cartoon Network in 2019. I'm a huge Thundercats guy. I love Thundercats as a kid. Mumra scared the crap out of me as a kid. Right. I love this, but I'm looking at this going, this ain't scary.
This is the opposite direction that I was hoping for it to go. Like it was mentioned on one of the comments last week that, live action would be amazing. Yeah, let's not go further down the animation rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, if you like Thundercats, check out Thundercats Roar in 2019 on Cartoon Network and let me know how it is, because just based on the way it looks right now, no, I'm not going to be watching it.
Yeah, I'll probably watch the first episode just to confirm all my fears to be true.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe my daughter will like it, and then she'll grow up thinking, God, I wish they would bring back Thundercats, and they'll bring it back super gritty and exciting when I'm 85 years old. And
someone pointed out to me that there was a Thundercats kind of reboot in like 2011, and I don't know that I ever saw it, so now I'm going to have to go out and Google it and see if I can find it somewhere and watch it.
Make sure it doesn't hurt when you Google it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, well, that's disturbing. No, I was excited all until I saw that first still. So, but what is exciting to me is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been renewed for another season. I don't know have you ever watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Do you ever get into it?
I watched like the first 4 episodes and I was bored and I stopped.
So, yeah, that's the biggest problem that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had for it, I think, is the first 2/3 of season 1 were just dull.
I heard it got much better, though.
But then, yeah, they kind of tied it to Avengers, I believe. It was either Avengers or Thor, I can't recall. But there was an event. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Avengers. Anyway, and then things kind of slowly changed on the show to kind of revolve around that. The writing came back second season much stronger. There have been a couple valleys in there, but overall, I've actually really enjoyed it. I haven't watched all of season 5 because I'm waiting for the season to end, where they usually turn it around on Netflix pretty quick. Right. Supposedly, I've heard season 5 is one of the best yet. So season 6 will be coming back. It won't be coming back next year, however. It won't be coming back during the normal season time. It's going to come back summer 2019. It's going to have a shorter season, 13 episodes instead of 22, but it still does really well. Really, I kind of dislike the whole half season stuff anyway. So 13 seasons is all done together. I'll be happy for it. So I'm kind of excited.
Well, you'll have to let me know how that goes, because like I said, I wanted to be into it because it looked like it'd be right up my alley, but it was so freaking boring. And I remember Breida's like, "Do you want to watch this anymore?" I was like, "No," and we just turned it off. And I've heard from a lot of people it gets better. My problem is that in a book, if you read a book, I don't usually expect to get hooked in a book until I've been reading for maybe an hour and a half, because enough time to kind of start to get familiar.
That's like
with
2 pages for me. Nice.
Right. I mean, I guess it depends on the book. Like I'm reading a new series by James Islington called the Lycanius Trilogy, and the second book I'm just barely into. The third book comes out, I think, in October, the last book. But it took me, I was on Audible, it took me a good hour and a half listening, because there's all these places they're describing and all these different names and different characters, and trying to understand who's who and the interaction between the two. Exactly. And so it takes a little while, but I just try to just deal with it enough that it's okay, and then eventually it's oh, okay, and then I realize I've been hooked and I'm enjoying the story, and I have enough of the framework that I can follow along, and then eventually it fills out more. So I understand that with the book, and with the video game, a good hour or 2 into a video game, I'm kind of getting past the mechanics, and then by hour 3, hour 4, if I'm not into it, it's not going to hook me. Man, with the TV show, if I'm on the 4th, 5th episode, and I'm 5 hours in, and all I have to do is sit there and watch this thing. I don't have to interact. I don't have to play. I don't have to read. It's it's a low threshold, right? A low barrier for entry. If I can't get into it within 4 or 5 hours, usually that to me says it's not going to be good. But if you're saying it's 2/3 of the first season,
it starts to really ramp up the end of the first season, and then season 2 starts off just way strong. Yeah. So now the one interesting thing I find about this is that the timing of May 2019 kind of coincides with getting close to the sequel to Infinity War. So they haven't really had. There have been a few crossover stuff from the movie. It's more like it's influenced by events in the movie, and they talk about stuff, movies. But I was thinking that maybe this is kind of around the time that it starts back up for that reason. Though they noted that it's solely based around ABC's decision, not made out of any commitment to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
BS.
Well, it's kind of like the Netflix Marvel shows, right? Like
Yeah.
they mention the incident in
Well,
New York.
Well, they actually have a little more direct involvement. Like they have some of the characters
Right.
from the movies actually in the Agents of Shield.
Right, but yeah, but like in the shows, like it seems like they don't like they reference it.
Right,
Like
the
they
incident.
reference the incident in New York, and so they're talking about the Chitauri invasion, but they don't, like they don't mention more than that really.
Right.
And so I kind of wonder, like at this point, like maybe the timeline is a little slower. Like I don't know. It just seems like there's that thing. So I just wonder, like if the Agents of Shield thing was like really kind of if like it picked up steam with kind of the crossover stuff more, and that really helped it, and they decided to kind of go that direction. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's pretty good. I'll report on that in a year.
Nice. Speaking of something coming back, a little while ago, I did a episode of the Fortress of Nerditude where we were talking about toys, and we discussed the toys that made us. And they broke up this documentary into 2 seasons, season 1 and then season 2. Well, season 2 releases May 25th, so this Friday. So if you're listening to the show on Friday, it releases today. If you're listening on Thursday, it releases tomorrow. It's amazing how calendars work, right?
And if you listen on Saturday, it released yesterday and you missed it.
Dang it. You got me. You got me again, Stu. Anyway, they're covering, it's really interesting, this whole thing, because they kind of start from like how the company was formed, like where it came from, why it got really big and popular. They talk to like the marketing people and the people that designed these toys and advertising people and people that made the deals to get the intellectual property. And the first season had some great stuff with He-Man and G.I. Joe and Star Wars and Barbie. Season 2 is going to cover Legos, Hello Kitty, Transformers, and Star Trek. And
I challenge them to combine them all into one.
Ooh, right. The interesting thing is, I didn't think I'd care much about the Barbie episode because I was like, I never played with Barbies. But like, it's really a kind of a fascinating thing just to watch like all the background workings of the toy industry. And
Sure.
like, it's pretty intense. Like I was surprised by how cutthroat it is.
Well, as a father of daughters, yeah, there's no way I'm getting away from Barbie in any kind of raising things in my house. So
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch season 1.
I might do that.
If you have season 2 releases May 25th on Friday, it's definitely worth watching.
I may pick up. So my daughter watches a lot of things on YouTube about toys and how they make them and how they destroy them and what to buy
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. She actually watches as much reality based stuff as she does cartoons. So I'm kind of proud of that. She loves science things, but I think watching the toys that made us, I think that would be pretty intriguing to her. So maybe
I think she'd like it. I don't think it would be above her head as far as like any of the discussions that's going on. Like I think she'd be totally fine.
Oh, she's like currently watching history shows.
Yeah,
So
yeah. She'll be fine.
yeah, nice. Looking forward to it. I'll catch up on that and let you know how I feel about it.
Cool.
So one other thing. So this is, I guess, a little bit of foreshadowing later, but we talk about some of the things that we like kind of related to Memorial Day in a way with a twist. But one of my favorite all-time movies is Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Ooh, yes.
That just blew me away. So gritty, so just, the raw emotion and everything that came out and everything. It was dark and tons of space battle stuff that just you didn't really see in Star Trek before that.
Right.
So, oh man, blew me away. Anyway, so the director of Wrath of Khan.
Sorry.
Are you done?
Go ahead. No, probably. I'll probably do it again one more time.
So Nicholas Meyer. So we have kind of we've acknowledged the love-hate relationship with Star Trek Discovery and CBS All Access.
Right.
Have you? You haven't even taken a look, have you?
No,
You jerk.
I haven't even taken a look.
You
yet.
need to. Discovery is really good.
Here's the thing.
No.
No. It's gonna be one of those things where I need to find time so I can like sign up and get like the free week trial and like.
There are other methods.
I know, and yeah. Let's talk later.
Arr. Anyway, so Nicholas Meyer was apparently writing a trilogy, I guess movies for small screen trilogy for CBS All Access.
Oh.
Yeah, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat. However, it looks like it's kind of in permanent hold due to recent openings of the wound between CBS and Paramount.
Wah, 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 wah.
So that whole mess has been going on forever, which is why you end up with different Star Trek. I mean, that's really behind the whole reboot to Star Trek. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so CBS is now suing National Amusements, and just a big thing that's kind of put a lot of things on hold. So this is in perpetuity. It's just going to sit there waiting, I guess, for this whole thing to shake out. I wonder if that's going to affect Discovery Season 2. I was really looking forward to that. It was signed up. They definitely got the bid for that. But now who knows what's going to happen. But I tell you what, I would love anything that this guy touches for Star Trek again.
Yeah. Yep. I think his touch on the Star Trek franchise was gold. I think it, not only that movie, but some of the changes that he made to the franchise set in motion things and the way we look at it. I mean, ever since, in such a good, positive way.
Right, because I mean, it was like Starfleet was always kind of in this weird Cold War. Like, even though in the original series, and you had this thing with the Klingons, but there wasn't really anything action. The few altercations were very staged and low tech sci-fi. But that was just dark and gritty and phasers and destruction and
Yep,
it gets me just jazzed just thinking about it. So I don't know. Hopefully something sees the light of day. I'm scared, Super Friends.
I told you I wasn't done. I can do that all day long.
Start to do DEFCON.
I love it. Okay.
What you got, man?
So, this is, I don't know how to even get into this. So, the continuing saga that is Stan Lee.
Oh.
Stan Lee, and when I read this, the article, I thought it was going to be something that it's a little different, but Stan Lee has filed a lawsuit in excess of $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Against a company he co-founded. And it's not Marvel. It is against POW Entertainment. I don't know if you remember, but when he left Marvel and he was kind of doing his own thing, then he formed this POW Entertainment, and it was supposed to be kind of like comic book stuff and whatnot. But basically, he's, according to the lawsuit, the co-founder, like Shane Duffy, the CEO and co-founder, Gil Champion, he's alleging conspired and agreed to broker a sham deal.
Shenanigans.
POW to a Chinese company and fraudulently steal Stan Lee's identity, name, image, and likeness as part of a nefarious scheme to benefit financially at Lee's expense. Basically, it goes back to a sale in like 2017 to this Hong Kong-based company called Camsing International, and they're saying that like basically Stan Lee's, like all of his likenesses, they're using this. They're saying that the defendants obtained his signature illegally, and they've been using it to sign things and put his likeness on things. And then, of course,
did they get the rights to his blood?
That's right. Basically, he also says that the Duffy Champion and then Lee's former business manager Gerardo Oliveras, who's not a defendant in the suit, basically took advantage of him when his wife died, basically like last year, and like they just kind of got him to sign over stuff. And anyway, so we hear reports that Stan Lee is being taken advantage of, being abused. People are stealing his blood and using it and signing things. They're forging his name at Comic-Cons and whatnot to make money, from family members, and like people are supposed to be helping him. And now you find out that the former business people that he signed with, he's now suing for $1 billion. I get it.
$1 billion.
Right. I get it that Stan Lee's really, really old, and I also get that like he's probably not going to be around for very much longer. It's just a shame that a man who wrote all these superheroes, about people helping the the underprivileged or helping those in need, is like being taken advantage of by people, and he doesn't have anyone that can really step in and stop this. He doesn't have a superhero in real life to jump in and save him right now.
Well, at the risk of death threats, there's a part of me that just has to wonder, is he maybe just a really old crazy guy now?
I mean,
I don't think that's really what's going on, but I mean, who knows? His fortune's dwindling. Maybe he just really doesn't know what's going on. But at the same time, maybe this is all completely real. It's so far-fetched. I mean, the level that this is going to, and if it is real, that's just disgusting, and I want to kick some people in the snarklies, but no.
Snarklies?
Yeah. No,
I don't really heard that.
I don't think it's fake, but there's that part of me that wonders. So I don't know. That's unfortunate.
Part of you that maybe wishes it was fake, because elderly abuse and taking advantage of the elderlies is very a disgusting thing.
Yeah, maybe there is some denial in there.
Yeah,
maybe. How insightful of you, Spencer.
Just
you get psychic when you're sick.
Yeah, a little bit.
You get sickic.
It's a cyclical problem. No, too far. Sickic, cyclic. No, okay.
Oh, that is just sick. Let's stop. Anything else about that? Because
no, unfortunately,
I'm wondering what the next chapter is.
I was about to say something, but it's morbid.
Ooh, no.
Yeah.
Bad Spencer.
Yeah, sorry. I almost went there. Let's just say this. Like, it's sad. It's horrible. And I don't think we're going to hear a lot of good coming out of this because, lawsuits, those things tend to go on for a while. All the other stuff, I mean, it's not... Well, it's just not pretty.
His age is a mitigating circumstance.
Yeah.
That would not be the first time that a participant in a suit's age or mental capacity has been a reason to expedite the process. So hopefully they're able to take advantage of that. If not, then okay. So
moving on.
Speaking of people with frailties, bad. Microsoft.
Oh wow!
It started dark. I couldn't make it any better. Microsoft new controller for gamers with disabilities.
This is cool.
Have you seen? It looks like a portable console kind of game. Like it looks like a kind of Nintendo system by itself.
I kind of thought it looked like two turntables
and a microphone.
I was
gonna make that joke. You suck.
Where it's at?
Oh, so bad. The Xbox.
the Xbox.
I can't finish my X's. The Xbox adaptive controller. So it's this huge white base unit for not huge. I mean, it looks like it has a footprint of maybe like 1.5 times the size of a regular controller for Xbox. Right.
Yeah.
But it does look like 2 turntables. It's got these 2 big white synaptic pads, and then your directional control with a couple of buttons. By itself, it looks pretty sleek, minimalistic, but futuristic all at the same time. But the most telling thing about this is on the back of it, there are just a ton of little plugins where you can accessorize this controller. Like, say you have motion problems and stuff, so you can get these giant buttons to push, or you can actually plug in a joystick or have any other, it looks like dozens of different types of controller accessories that would be able to address your specific disability. My thought is that I may not be disabled when it comes to a controller, at least, but I may still want to get one of these because some of the stuff I think you could do with this is amazeballs. Yeah,
it looks pretty cool. I got to say, Microsoft is streets ahead with this idea. I mean, just trying to say we have a segment of the population that want to play the game, and they're maybe locked out from doing that because of their unique circumstances and disabilities. They can't physically hold a controller. So for them to take the time to figure out a way to make something that they feel is going to have the best ability for the most use in kind of that segment of their maybe base, people that want to play, but then to have the ability to plug in extra adapters, things that I don't know, maybe this gamer over here can't do this with the touchpads, but needs this sort of a thing. Oh, you can plug in and do that, and you can customize it how you need it. Seriously, that's just way cool. I really applaud Microsoft for this.
And it doesn't just address existing gamers with disabilities. I think it has the potential to provide an opportunity for people to play games that may not have otherwise in the first place. Yeah. So, I mean, even from a business standpoint, they stand to win from this. But yeah, if you have a disability that's severe enough that it definitely hinders your ability to play games in the first place, Xbox has this controller that you can modularize how you personally need it to play a game, and PlayStation doesn't. PC really doesn't, unless you go for some fancy USB devices.
Nintendo doesn't.
Nintendo doesn't. You are going to play Xbox, and that could potentially be a reasonable sized market. That getting that kind of jump on could be important.
Not only that, but I think that this is going to help push the market to make more things. Like, I could see PlayStation and Nintendo coming out with something that could be used by people that have disabilities now, because they're going to say, oh, Microsoft's done this. Look what they were able to do. They were forward thinking, streets ahead, and they did this. So hopefully it pushes the whole industry in that direction so that we get some solid change that others will do the same thing.
Right. My hope, and I'm not really all for standardization of everything. I believe that there is a purpose, and to capitalism that comes from innovation and things like that. But there are exceptions to that, and I would hope that the International Standards Organization, I hope there is some standardization around this, that maybe there's kind of a universal platform for all consoles to be able to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
So,
what's the price point on this thing?
It's $100 to start, and obviously you need to pay for, well, maybe not obviously, but you'll need to buy the accessories. The base pad itself is $100, so.
That's not too bad, considering I think
it really does
like $60-$70 on its own.
Right, and it does have special functionality that doesn't exist in others. Technology does come at a price, and so there's more features to it. It is going to be a little bit more expensive, and the accessories you're going to have to purchase on their own. But for that accessibility, I'm sure that's not something that anyone that's had to build their life around their disability is really, not familiar with already. So,
right,
but it is reasonable. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like it, man. Like I said, I hope this goes gangbusters. I hope it's big. I hope it's super successful for them, because, it's a help to facilitate gaming, and to like I said, so many people can benefit from this, even not just those with disabilities. I mean,
well, Nintendo's attempt at working with gamers with disabilities didn't really go ever so well. The Power Glove.
I think that thing caused disabilities.
That poor device. It was innovative, but it was ahead of its time in such a way that it didn't go anywhere.
Right. I actually saw maybe a thing on YouTube about it. There's maybe a 20-25 minute video, but just about the Power Glove and the technology that went in, and how it's adapted from something else. Really interesting. You should go look it up. It was interesting.
I've seen it.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. Okay, get this. 4 years ago, so we're talking 2014, Channing Tatum of Magic Mike fame, of course, Stu, you're familiar with that, he announced that he was going to play the title character in the X-Men spinoff Gambit. And I know that Gambit is a very, very popular X-Men character. A lot of people loved him in the 90s X-Men cartoon. He made this big announcement, and that was 4 years ago, and we haven't heard anything about it since. Well, I mean, I guess we've heard a little bit, some missed release dates, tons of uncertainty, directors, people have gone in and out and in and out. It reminds me of the idea of the Deadpool movie, when Deadpool was originally being talked about, right?
I don't think the Magic Mike comment I'm not even going to reply to that.
I try to gloss it so fast and just keep moving. Anyway, there's, just
Sultry
4 years
Spencer.
ago. That's right. Hello. Anyway, Simon Kinberg, who's like the head honcho of like the X-Men universe, was asked by Variety just like recently, like the status of the spin-off film. And basically he says like, not only is Gambit really a thing, but it's a thing that will actually start filming this year. So here's my advice. Take that with a grain of salt, because it's been 4 years and we've heard this before. And
Now, is that sea salt or iodized?
both. I want you to take a little pinch of each.
2 grains of salt.
2 grains of salt.
Interesting.
A pinch of a grain of salt, that's 2 grains of salt.
And a pinch of paprika.
For spice.
Oh, paprika, it's my favorite.
Yeah, anyway, like, I don't know how I feel about this, because here's the problem. Gambit, that was featured in X-Men The Last Stand, was bad. And it was almost bad enough that, like, no one wants to see that character in film, because it was horrible.
I can't even see Channing Tatum as Gambit in the first place.
As Cajun? Right?
Well, a Cajun action hero. Like, because, I mean, Gambit's always been, like, skinny, and I mean, Channing Tatum, he's buff. He's kind of a stature guy.
I got that in my head now.
My
good 90s X-Men. I love it.
Super Friends, help him.
Yeah, there's no help for me. I'm too far gone. Yeah, I don't know, man. Gambit, it's like, if there was like a standalone X-Men besides like the Wolverine movies, which we've obviously had like 17 of, that I would want to see, I mean, Gambit's not the one. Gambit's not the one I would want to see a spin-off of.
Beast?
I think a Beast movie would be cool.
Yeah.
I think a Beast movie would actually be really, really cool. For a long time, I thought like maybe we could get like a Cyclops Jean Grey story that's like outside of that. But
I loathe Cyclops. I mean, like even in the comics, Cyclops just is my least favorite.
But I mean, we kind of got that a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing like a standalone of like Pyro and Iceman, like something like those two, because I always really liked
like a Song of Fire and Ice.
That's right. No, I mean just the opposite, right? You know, the one, you know, the one and the other, like they're kind of
contrast.
Yeah, like I thought they could do some good stuff there. You know, but it's just I don't know.
What about a Magneto movie?
That would be badass. I would be down for
modern Magneto or the what would you call that?
The late 1990s, 2000s Magneto?
Oh no, I mean like the older dudes or the younger dudes.
Oh, that's a good. See, because freaking Gandalf killed it as Magneto, so I wonder if he's too old now to do it.
He did, but I like the younger Magneto better.
I like so it's tough because I think the older Magneto, you know, there was a gravitas to that performance. There was more of like I've been doing this for 40, 50, 60 whatever years, and like you could tell like he's entrenched in his beliefs because of all the things that have built up. Whereas in the newer movies, like the new Class version, right, the younger ones, it's like he's going through this for the first time, so it's a different experience. But it's not like he doesn't have the gravitas of like, I've been Magneto now for 60 some years.
Right. I like the younger version of it without those, like all those experiences are new rather than I'm the master of everything and I can make your head spin from the metal plate. Yeah. I don't know. I think there's more story potential for big screen with the younger. But yeah, I mean,
sure.
That's either one of them 1,000 times better than the idea of Gambit, in my opinion. So
yeah. I tell you someone I don't want to see.
In 4 more years,
solo.
we'll see it.
That's right. I don't want to see a standalone movie of like Storm. Nope.
Nope.
Or Toad. Nope. Or Sabretooth. No. Actually, I can think of a lot that I don't want to see.
As much as I admire Patrick Stewart, even I don't even want to see a Professor X standalone. Because I mean,
feel like
X-Men is his story, though.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think we've had enough of Professor X. Not like I wouldn't want to see him again in the role, but more of just like we've had so much of him that like we don't need that.
What about a Mystique movie? That was my opportunity to work that into the show.
Is this
No.
J-Law Jennifer Lawrence, or is this Rebecca Romaine Stamos? Or Rebecca Romaine, I guess now.
Ooh, that cut deep. The latter. Yeah.
Rebecca Romaine. Yeah, hands down. All the way. Yes.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Not really,
but
yeah.
Not that Jennifer Lawrence isn't, a looker in her own right, because she is.
Yeah.
But I think you put the two together, and my money's on Rebecca Romaine every day of the week.
Why not both?
Didn't they kind of do that though a little bit in the in like one of the most recent ones? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It was good.
Okay, we don't have to touch on my fantasies every episode.
By the way, do you remember the Punisher movie that came out in like 2004, 2005?
Yes.
I only went and saw that movie because of Rebecca Romaine was in it. Just saying.
Oh, that's legit though.
And that movie was not that good.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Even Rebecca Romaine couldn't save it. I was like, this movie's not that good. Now the Punisher the Punisher series on Netflix and his role in Daredevil, that's freaking awesome.
Yes, I actually had started to kind of lose faith in the Netflix Marvel stuff, but Punisher was deep. Punisher went deep.
It was good. It was good. All right, that's all I got for Rebel Intelligence. Do you have anything else, Stu?
No. I want to, but I don't. Sorry. That's all the news that's ever happened this week.
That's all of the intelligence we have gathered from the galaxy this week.
We ran out of Bothans.
Yeah, many Bothans did die, unfortunately. Too many. Let's see here. Last week we had a conversation. We talked about mothers, being that Mother's Day had just happened, and we also talked about people that had fostered or nurtured our nerdiness. And we asked our super friends who was your mentor, your growing up, fostered your nerdiness, and what did they do? And we got some responses, and so super friends, we want to read your responses.
Some really good responses.
Some really good responses, and some of them that like really are almost a little hard to read just because. But anyway, let's start over where we always do on email with Peter Christensen. Dear nerds, Stu, I believe Neo, Morpheus, Jesse Pinkman, and Hank Schrader would disagree about always trusting a bald guy with a goatee.
What could possibly go wrong?
He says, Brooklyn Nine-Nine was a good show, but I lost interest after the third season. The first two are great. Full disclosure, I love 30 Rock and Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah.
It is in my Hulu playlist. It is going to be one of the next things I watch. He says, can I add an additional bring back request? Can we bring back the cancellation of Full House?
Oh.
Savage, yes. Peter. Savage.
I will sign that petition.
He says, I don't know if it's nerdy enough, but the best mother on TV is Tammy Taylor from Friday Night Lights, played by Connie Britton. She runs her household, busy husband, moody teenage daughter, creates a career for herself, and is a surrogate mother for many kids in the town that don't have stable household. She also co-star in the most realistic portrayal of a good marriage ever on TV.
Whoa.
I like that. I like the thought put in there. I've actually never seen that show, so I couldn't.
Nothing.
I couldn't. I couldn't talk about that. He says, if that's not acceptable, I'll nominate Helen Parr, a.k.a. Elastigirl from The Incredibles. She keeps her home together when her husband is depressed and shiftless. She can perform evasive maneuvers in a jet. She's an equal to her superhero husband in a fight, and she's the second most dangerous mother to mess with after the fearsome protective Molly Weasley. Funny enough, like my boys are back on the Incredibles train right now.
I was just about to say, I can't believe we didn't even talk about the mom from The Incredibles.
I know, right? Well, there's a lot of good moms.
Yes.
So while I like your first answer, I can identify better, Peter, with your second answer because I know Helen Parr, and we were watching Incredibles actually tonight before we put the kids down.
Sincerely, the Fortress of Nerditude podcast.
You're right. She says, so Peter goes on to say, says, like so many other parts of my life, the person that fostered my nerdy pursuits was my mother. She's not only a nerd. Oh, excuse me. She's not a nerd, but she recognized what to let me do. She let me read my role-playing game rule books like novels. She let me stay after elementary school when I was teaching myself how to program computers. She watched shows about robots and spaceships instead of sports. She gave me the room to pursue my interests, which led to my current career. Thanks, Mom. Peter. Cheers, Peter, boys.
There you go.
I love that, Peter, because I think that's exactly, I think, encapsulates what we were trying to talk about, right?
Yep.
His mom, wasn't into that. She'd rather be watching sports, but she watched robots and spaceship shows, and she, let him have the space he needed to grow and mature into things that he found interesting,
right,
and supporting him all along. And so, Peter's mom, this is what we're saying to you. You're awesome. Congratulations. You raised a good son, and other kids, I'm assuming, if you have some, I'm sure they're good too. I don't know. I'm sorry, Peter. I don't know if you have siblings.
You should have. Yeah. Don't pull that thread.
Anyway, that's awesome. That you got a good mom. Congrats. Okay, let's move over to Facebook. We're gonna go
space,
and we're gonna start with Caleb Albers. He says, "Gotta say, I didn't really have anyone other than one or two friends at a time that encouraged my nerdy pursuits. My nerdy love has always been anything Marvel. Growing up, the nerddom has expanded to DC a little bit, some fantasy games like Skyrim, and other stuff along those lines. But growing up, my two brothers started shaming me for my love because they started to grow out of stuff that I liked. One got into Dragon Ball Z and sports, and the other got into mechanics. So I was a bit of a loner there. And my mom and dad have never been into that stuff. So I always suppressed that side of me growing up. And even with my friends, the suppression was to varying degrees. Luckily now, my wife is very supportive of my nerdy pursuits and interests. And even though she may not feel the same way I do about them, I don't hide my feelings and thoughts about my love anymore. And I also have one buddy that shares the same interests as me. We're actually planning on working on films together in the future. While he's in school for it, I'm wanting to start school in the same program. Other than those couple of people in my circle of friends, which is more like a triangle unless you don't count my wife, then it's a line, I don't have people that support or encourage my nerdy pursuits. Unless it's about guns, cars, sports, or motorcycles, all of which I have zero knowledge about, except motorcycles. I really like motorcycles, but don't know how they work at all. I have pretty much nothing to talk about with my immediate family unless I fake it, which I do frequently."
Yeah, that's rough, because the peer pressure itself is bad enough, but when you've got brothers who have that direct influence over you and can make your life a living hell if things aren't comfortable for them, that suppresses that, and that pushes you more into the corner rather than helps to free you. And then the note, Caleb, that you make about the whole motorcycles, even though you have zero knowledge about it, that's something that I run into a lot. So I have a Corvette. I love it to death, but you see that with a lot of things. Like, there's almost this potential for elitism in nerd culture now that is kind of surprising. Like that so the vet example thing, I talk to other vet owners and stuff, and like they start busting out stats and all these things that their transmission does, and I'm like, it's a really cool car.
Yeah, you're not a gearhead.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, and you kind of feel inferior in a way for loving something, and that hurts.
I'm kind of the same way with my motorcycle, as Caleb is saying. Like, I love my motorcycle. I love riding my motorcycle. I'm in a motorcycle club. I am not a gearhead. I can't turn a wrench to save my life just because I don't know, and I was never maybe exposed to that. It wasn't something my dad was into either. And so, like, if something breaks on my bike or something has a problem, I take it somewhere and I pay someone to do it because I can't do it myself, and I don't even know where to begin. And so, like, I understand that. And I want to say this because I'm in the motorcycle club with Caleb's father. I know his mother. I know his two brothers. All great people. Like, they're good human beings. They're good people. But yeah, and I don't take this as like Caleb is saying like his family's bad people or anything at all. But it's one of those things where, unfortunately, their interests lie in different places. And so,
right.
He just felt like, he couldn't couldn't open up about that kind of stuff. And I get that because, I think to a degree, all of us do this a little bit, right? If like maybe we're into Dungeons and Dragons, but Dungeons and Dragons, when you were into it, wasn't a cool thing. And so like you didn't kind of talk about it. Like,
right.
For instance, I'm going to be going, out of town in a week or two to go celebrate with some buddies of mine. Their podcast is having their 300th episode. And I'm going out there for that. So like when people are like, oh, what are you going to Nashville for? I'm like, well, I'm going to see some friends. That's not a lie. But I'm also not like, well, I'm going to see some friends because they're celebrating their 300th, podcast episode. We're going to record live and we're going to watch the E3 conferences and, see all the video games released. Because if I'm not around people who play video games and like they're not into that stuff at all, or in some cases like they're like openly against video games, if I tell them what I'm doing, like there's a judgment, right? Then there's, I feel like I've got to like just, kind of keep it to myself and protect it a little bit, but, kind of go out that way. So like I understand what he's saying. I understand where Caleb's coming from.
Not to derail this, but I kind of went through that a little bit today, actually. I went into the office and I had that immediate... So I actually anticipated a reaction because I'm so used to it that I didn't really need to. So we're sitting there talking, and this one guy that I don't usually see, because I don't go into the office very much, and he didn't know about the podcast. We're talking, and I mentioned to someone else, and I was like, the guy I was talking about, one of my friends is hopefully going to join the Fallen Patriot ride this weekend. I was talking to him, and we briefly mentioned the podcast, and this other guy that I don't usually talk to because I'm not in the office, he's like, you have a podcast? And a couple people kind of gather around, and he actually plays it out loud. I was freaking mortified that he would just up and do that out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, great, here it comes. The bashing or the jokes or
right.
Whatever the case may be. But they're all just like, listen, oh man, that sounds really awesome. And it was just a fully supportive environment. I'm not used to that. And because of circumstances like Caleb kind of describes and other people, even through not intending to oppress, it still kind of ostracizes you a little bit. And it breeds that kind of reaction, even if it's not warranted. But good news and all that. Caleb has mentioned that his wife is accepting of that. Maybe not into the same things, but that acceptance is definitely the key. Being around people that accept you for who you are, help you support that, even if they don't like it themselves, because it could be very easy for them not to. And it's difficult to find people that love exactly the same stuff you do, no matter what it is. So
right, yeah. And like I say, I'm going to see Caleb this weekend. He's going to come down to the Fallen Patriot ride, and so it's always kind of fun because when Caleb gets there, like we can kind of like talk and kind of geek out a little bit. I mean, right. I'm super super busy.
Just don't bring up the Hulk.
No, I'm going to bring it up and see. Man, the Hulk, man, bad news.
Well, give Caleb a fist bump for me.
I absolutely will. Absolutely. Let's go on over to the Twitters. We're going to start with Nemo Nerds here at Nemo Nerds here. It says, at Joshua Tracy 85 really helped us find our inner nerd. He's the older brother we all needed when we were younger. Even if you never experienced something firsthand, he makes you feel like you have. And then Joshua Tracy 85 responds and says, I'm still not sure this is really Nemo. He says, but thank you. I'd say my parents had the biggest influence on my nerdy side. They were always super supportive of all the crazy crap I was into as a kid, and they did it across 3 continents, always keeping me in my nerdy element.
A little envious.
Yeah. These Nemo Nerds here and Josh Just Nerds here, both of these guys have a podcast, a pretty new podcast called We Nerd Here, or We Just Nerd Here, and that's up on iTunes. And they're a local group. They're here based in Utah somewhere, and so it's nice that they reached out and answered our questions. So guys, if you're looking for another podcast, kind of similar vein, nerd pop culture stuff, We Just Nerd Here on Twitter at We Just Nerd Here is a new podcast out there. Go ahead and give it a listen, see what you think.
Now they're going to get millions of extra listeners.
That's right.
Millions.
All of the Fortress of Nerditude super friends are going to go there. Josh Stapleton at MTTG Street Team says, I have an older brother that is pretty much the nerdiest nerd to ever nerd out. He even drove a car with a nerdy license plate Jedi 79. What a goober. You should meet him sometime. You guys have a ton in common.
Unless he's a bald guy with a goatee. No.
Yeah, seriously, who would do that? By the way, it just wasn't the license plate. I also had a Darth Vader bumper sticker and a little R2-D2 figure that I mounted in the back, like hatchback, so you could see him through the window. Yeah, I had R2 with me. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I have Core Vader license plate, and I have a Horde sticker on the back of my car.
Yeah, this was also in high school. Actually, I still have that R2. It's upstairs, and my boys play with it.
Wait, what are you saying?
I am he. He is me. I'm just saying the brother. That's me.
Okay, I thought you were getting like really, pseudo-intellectual there for a second. I was concerned.
No, I don't get pseudo-intellectual.
It's all the NyQuil.
Yes. Oh, that crazy, crazy NyQuil. Okay, Nerdish67 at dspin67 says, my cousin Gregory Johnson, he taught me about computers, networking, and electronics. The main thing he got me into, video games and computer games. The 2600 and 5200, we played for hours. Great bonding moment. Now I have my kids in gaming. My oldest loves Nintendo.
Heck yeah.
Yes, Gregory Johnson, good on you.
And he even gives the hashtag phone answers.
Yeah, hashtag FON answers. Paul Calico at pcalico84. What's up, Paul? Says, dang, this one is hard because my parents weren't really around as a kid. Dad always working, mom on quote-unquote vacation. So I guess G-Ma and Pa. G-Ma always bought me toys, and G-Pa ran a flea market where I got 90% of my video games from. So thanks, G-Ma and Pa. Else time, Paul Calico. I think that's kind of going back to kind of what we said, sometimes, sometimes the people that, help shepherd our nerdy pursuits and, support us, may not just be direct, like the direct familial, like a parent or a brother or sister, but, grandparents or, or a cousin in the case of, at dspin67, so, friends, family, people we know.
The one thing that kind of sticks out here is that these people, for everybody that replied, they know exactly who that was and the effect that those people had. So there's obviously an impact to that. So that's something that I as a parent, I'm sure you, Spencer, kind of take to heart, is we know that this is impactful to the growth of our children. And it's not something to take lightly. And, you have to get to know your kids and not just know them, but help support them in whatever it is that they're into, as much to, help be supportive of them, but also to not oppress them out of something that they might grow into on their own. Right.
Yep.
So,
and you say that, I'm thinking like, what are my kids getting into? And I keep thinking of Jackson, and every stinking time I turn my back, he finds a way to jump onto my back and and then he grabs on and he goes, wee-ha, wee-ha, daddy, I'm a cowboy, wee-ha, wee-ha.
Well, there you go.
And I'm the furthest thing from country or a cowboy, the furthest thing. And so he says, Daddy, I want to be a cowboy when I grow up. I said, oh, that's great, okay. And then I said, but I thought you said just yesterday you wanted to be a fireman. Yeah, Daddy, I want to be a fireman and I want to help save lots of people. I want to be a fireman cowboy. And I was like, this sounds awfully like a male dancer profession. I want to be a fireman cowboy.
Oh, and we're back to Magic Mike.
I was like, please, please, please. I want to encourage you in your pursuits. However,
the key to this is acceptance. Just accept.
Just pick one. Don't combine them. Don't combine them. Pick one. Oh. No, but that's the thing. I've been thinking about this kind of, as I've been reading the answers, with a little, in all seriousness, I've been thinking about that. What are my kids going to want to get into? What are they going to want to do? And so, I want to foster that. So that, for instance, real quick, this weekend, they got down into my old Guitar Hero guitars that are down in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
From my PS2. And Charlie picked up the one that's the Flying V, and it was wireless. And so Jackson picked up the original one, and he wanted to play, but he didn't want the wire on it. So I just got my pocket knife out, and I just cut the wire off it, because I don't even have a PS2 anymore. But they started running around the house wearing these little guitars, and Jackson has the soul of Jimmy Page in him. He was shredding on those buttons and on the little, little thumbstick, and he was making all the little, instinctually. I don't think he's ever seen a guitarist, ever. And he's making faces and poses and getting down on one knee, and like he looks like he's shredding. Just looks like he's shredding. He's having a great time. Whereas Charlie's more like methodical. He looks like he's more like Eric Clapton, just real classical. He's just like really clean. And I'm watching these boys and I'm thinking, if they wanted to play guitar and they wanted to get into that and like that was a passion, like I would support that. Like,
Hashtag air guitar styles.
Yeah, if they want to get into music, if they, whatever. And so anyway, just a little side, talking about this, like, yeah, I'm a father. I've got to find a way to, support and, be there for my kids, whatever their pursuits may be, nerdy, sports, otherwise, whatever.
And then someday you'll make a great mother.
Yes, sure. That too. All right, Stu. What can our super friends do to help us out? We ask this question every week, but what can they do?
They can put gas in my car. That would be amazing. Gas prices are going up. It's enough.
They could pay for my new transmission, $4,000.
Hey, at least I'm a little more realistic. I mean, I'm not like asking them to do something super crazy, like go on iTunes and actually give us a 5-star rating. Oh, yes, I am. Go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. As always, I will plug the whole algorithm that they use to, indicate popularity. 5-star ratings are the way to do it. Leave us a note if you like, but it's the 5 stars that matter most. And if you're Mario, that gets you 1/20th of the way through Super Mario World. So that's that too.
Ah, very nice. Very nice. Okay, so Stu, we kind of talked about this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Memorial Day's coming up, right? In the beginning,
yes,
I talked about
remember.
That's right.
Remember Memorial.
It's coming up, right? And
yes.
I thought it'd be interesting, since this would be a little topical, that we could do a top 10 list, good old David Letterman style, a top 10 list of our favorite military-inspired video games, movies, TV shows, whatever, in nerd pop culture. Anything is fair game.
That's such a coincidence, because I always carry around a top 10 list with me everywhere I go.
Hey-o! That's awesome. So, why don't you kick us off with you're like number 10, and let's do this like 10 to 1. We'll rank what we feel.
Didn't you call that a salmon ladder?
It is like a salmon ladder.
That by itself, that's the name of the episode, the salmon ladder.
The military salmon ladder.
Oh, that gives me other images that I don't care to go into. Okay, so I mean, this is really loosely kind of. It's not like it's army movies and stuff like that. We're military presence or military influence one way or another, whatever. Anyway, so number 10 for me, Predator. We talked about it last week a little bit. We actually saw the preview for that on Deadpool 2 for the new one.
Yep.
Which scares the daylights out of me as far as ever getting in the theater for that. But the original Predator, anyway, you had the Mercenary Force. It's just Predator was such a great monster movie, so to speak. But it was really kind of about the characters themselves and the hunt and the suspense and the sci-fi of it all and the really cool guns that they had with the 3 lights and the cloaking.
And Jesse Ventura had one of the best lines in all cinema history. I ain't got time to bleed. I love that.
Dude, I love that movie so much. What's your 10, man?
Okay, so my number 10 is American Sniper. This is the
I
film.
haven't seen that.
Really? Oh, it's good. But it's based on the life of sharpshooter Chris Kyle.
Right.
It stars Bradley Cooper. The interesting thing about this is that the movie garnered a bunch of like Academy Award nominations, ended up winning for I think like sound editing, but it was nominated for Best Picture.
Sure.
It was made by Clint Eastwood. It caught a lot of flack from the left because they thought maybe like it glorified some of the atrocities of war, and some of the right said like it kind of focused a little too much on the PTSD or vice versa, whatever. And so it caught this. But the interesting thing was I found it to be a very realistic portrayal of the modern military and what someone a sharpshooter, a sniper like him would be going through, and like the things they'd be thinking and having to deal with. And you could see in Bradley Cooper's performance, like you could see the anguish in decisions he has to make at times, and what he's kind of struggling and going through, and when he comes back. And I liked the movie so much that I ended up going out and purchasing the book and reading the book.
I don't really get into many actual war stories. having been in the Army, having been in some pretty adverse circumstances, and it not really being what spoke to me about being a good soldier, it's not really something that really appeals to me. But you talk about the, like the personal anguish and the personal kind of decisions through all that kind of appeals to me. So I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I really did like it. I thought it was a good film. What's your number 9?
No, your number 9, Salmon Ladder.
Oh yeah, sorry, mine. Okay, so this is definitely military. It's based off of a book, and it was one of my dad's favorite films, and so of course this holds like a big nostalgia place for me because my dad's not here with me anymore. But when I do watch this movie, I automatically think of him. It is The Hunt for Red October.
Oh,
the Tom Clancy book. And the book is amazing. The film
that's
is
actually what got me
great.
into Tom Clancy. I actually read that and read a few other.
Yep, I've read a lot of his, like The Teeth and the Tiger, Patriot Games, Executive Decision.
Right.
Cardinal of the Kremlin was really, really good too.
I have not read that.
I really like that one. But Hunt for Red October, the movie is about, kind of during the Cold War. It's about a Russian sub that basically is designed to run in a stealth mode, and the Russian officer decides to defect to the U.S., and this is based off of a real life story, and it's their whole attempt to try to get to off the coast of the U.S. and signal their intentions to the U.S. that they're trying to defect, which is going to be very, very difficult because they don't want to be viewed as hostile towards the Americans, while at the same time, the Russians realize that they're going to defect, and so the Russians are trying to hunt them down and kill them. And it's suspenseful, it's got some twists, it's got some turns, but it's that submarine type of film where they're trapped in a submarine under the water, and every little thing can give them away, or the smallest little change can do this. And it's Jack Ryan, it's Tom Clancy, it's I love it.
Right.
I love it, and it's one of my dad's favorites, so it holds a place in my heart.
I loved it. Everything you said is true. It inspired me to read some of the other books. I didn't know it was based on a real story, but it was exciting, and it got me to read some books that are definitely outside of my comfort zone. I'm a sci-fi fantasy guy, so to go into kind of like the military history or fictional history of some of his stuff is pretty interesting. Yeah. My number 9 is not based on anything realistic whatsoever, and if it unless it is, and I want to know about it. But Stargate.
Ooh, I love that movie.
Stargate was awesome, and to me, one of the best parts about that was the kind of the trope of science versus military. Going through and trying to understand everything that's going on and everything, but the military has its own agenda. And how does the scientific group kind of overcome that? But it was also surrounded by some really cool sci-fi stuff. And so, I mean, the trope is the trope, but I thought it was a really well put together movie. It inspired many different series after, and something that a lot of people want to explore more. And so that was my number 9.
Nice. I like that. I do like that kind of trope, to be perfectly honest. The science is trying to do this in the military, because it makes me think of The Abyss. Another one of my dad's favorite movies growing up, because, The Abyss is the scientists are trying to figure this out, but then the military guys are all like, no, this is a threat, and so they got their own agenda. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love that trope. It makes for some good movies.
It does. And interestingly enough, it kind of ties into my number 8, where the trope is reversed, where it's science is potentially the bad guys and the military, they're the good guys.
Ooh.
Aliens.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, that's really the only one in the series that's really military based, but just that was so gritty, and there was so much butt kicking, and they're trying to save the xenomorphs and stuff from the scientific side of things, which we all know is just a really bad idea.
No way, man. No way.
Game over,
man. Game over. We're on an express elevator to hell, going down. Love that movie.
I usually take over things, so I'll let you have that. But yeah, no, Aliens was probably my favorite of the entire series. And yeah, just going in and kicking names and chewing bubblegum.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Okay, my number 8 is definitely heavily military, and it's definitely an 80s movie, and it definitely defines the 80s decade, I think, for me.
Oh, can I guess?
Yes.
War Games.
No, but that is a
Oh.
very good guess. Top Gun.
Okay, fair enough.
1986. I love Top Gun, right? You got a Navy fighter pilot who's kind of this like rogue, brash young man who kind of does his own thing and is constantly kind of getting in trouble for it, but he's one of the best of the best, and so he gets called up to Miramar, and he's got to go and learn from the best fighter pilots, and so they talk about like aerial combat and dogfighting, and basically like, you know, he ends up getting involved in an incident with a Russian MiG, and early in the film, and then that happens later in the film. I mean, there is the love stuff, and there's, the Righteous Brothers tune in there, and, all the other things, make it a kind of a classic 80s movie. But it is a great movie as far as like military, because it's all like, this is they're all servicemen. However, also, if you haven't watched the honest trailer for Top Gun, do that because you will laugh super hard. It's awesome.
It should have been Hot Shots Part 2, though.
Oh. No, Top Gun much better. Okay, continuing on our military salmon ladder, I'm going to jump up to number 7, and this is a little controversial that I put this so low, but I was trying to get a mix of like right now I'm going through all movies, but I kind of changed it up here a little bit going forward. But this was still a movie, Terminator, and it is military because you've got a guy coming back from the future who's part of the resistance. He's in the the human resistance, the military, and then you also have kind of the military industrial complex of these Terminator machines that are trying to wipe out the the human race. And so you've also got the aspect of the mom getting pregnant to give birth to the future military leader. So like it's not like super heavy in military, but it's very military themed and inspired, I think, and a lot of that maybe does take place in the future.
So I'm going to ask the Super Friends for a sidebar question of the week. How wrong is Spencer?
Oh no.
It's a bit of a stretch.
It's a bit of a stretch.
However, this is for fun, so whatever goes. Hello Kitty could be on here, whatever.
Number 7, Terminator.
Terminator was awesome. I don't know that I would have put it on a military movie list, but Terminator was freaking awesome. Terminator was a pop culture point in time.
Yep.
There are definitely life before Terminator, much less life after.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm a big Star Trek fanboy, no mistaking it. I happen to love the new Star Trek movies. I love kind of the parallels, and they kind of did this with Star Wars too, that it's kind of a reboot, but kind of its own story, but there's definitely parallels from episode 7 to episode 4 for Star Wars, and the newer Star Trek with the original Star Trek stuff, the relationship between Kirk and Spock. So we're well outside of spoiler embargo on this, right?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So one of my favorite moments in internet history ever was the fact that nobody spoiled Star Trek II Into Darkness for me, which is my number 7.
Awesome.
I did not get to see it for months after, and I was so I went into that movie knowing that this wasn't going to be Khan. It's a new bad guy, and everything's different. And I love that they were kind of tying it in. There was some symmetry, but then they did the reveal that it was Khan after all.
Right.
And I caught my breath, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is so amazing!"
Right.
And, I mean, Bumble Dick Bebber Snot.
What?
He did amazing as Khan. It was so good, and I love it because it's a modern take on I mean, the ideals of Star Trek are still there, but to reach a newer audience, you've got to evolve, you've got to change. It's definitely a more grown-up approach to Star Trek, I think, and I think that transition from Wrath of Khan into Darkness was done perfectly well with the reboot stuff, and I love the heck out of that movie. And that reveal it took my breath away.
Yeah, I know. I really did like that movie too.
In short, it was Khan. It was Khan the whole time.
Yes. The whole dang time.
Well, completely unrelated is my number 6, which is actually Star Trek II Wrath of Khan.
Khan!
Oh,
Yep.
Man, I should have edited that into something else. Wrath of Khan, we've already talked about that a little bit, but oh my gosh, growing up, that was a defining movie for my love of science fiction.
Yes.
So good. I want to go watch that right now. And Ricardo Montalban, holy crap. Ooh. Seeing him, Mr. Rourke, that was not who was on that ship.
No, not at all.
That was an evil bastard.
Yeah. So the cool thing about the Wrath of Khan is that Nicholas Meyer, when he came in to direct Star Trek II, the first Star Trek the Motion Picture was kind of, still kind of this like utopian space, kind of idea. The outfits, the uniforms they wore looked completely different than what had been seen in the television series. Mm-hmm. And when Nicholas Meyer came in,
but that movie was dry.
It was very
so dry.
It was very dry. But when Nicholas Meyer came in, though, he absolutely said, "I want to approach this like this is more like the Navy." And so he put him in uniforms that looked similar to like military uniforms with insignia and rank on them, so you could see the insignia and rank. The little bosun whistle at the end of that movie, that's a Navy bosun's whistle.
Right.
The whole like put Spock in the torpedo tube, drape a Federation flag over it and set him off. That's like burying someone at sea in the Navy. And so like he infused the military and kind of like this military feeling into Star Trek, which Star Trek had never really had that, but it provided structure to the Federation. It provided structure to how things operate on the starships in the Federation, and like maybe the differences between the interactions between the Federation and the Klingons and everyone else for years to come. And so he really militarized Star Trek, but not in a way that it was like like we're just thirsty, battle hungry. Like no, they still go out, they still explore.
You need to see Discovery. Oh my gosh.
All right, we'll talk afterwards. Okay, so that was your number 6.
That was my number 6.
Okay,
so my number Wrath of Khan!
My number 6 is a TV show, and it is none other than one of my favorite cartoons of all time, G.I. Joe. How could you not?
You didn't put the movie on there? The cartoon?
No, the cartoons.
I'm kidding. Cartoons, awesome.
It was super 1980s. I mean, it was super like propaganda, I gotta say, like Cold War. I mean, Cobra and Destro, which is basically stands in for Russia, and then Joe's, which stand in for America. It was a great TV show though for kids, because the cool thing was, besides it being a military organization and kind of the battling between the two, they always had like some like little PSA at the end. There's something like hey kids, don't go near downed power lines. Thanks, roadblock. And this could hurt you. Like, so they took the advantage of like, we're gonna show battling and we're gonna show people shooting. Although no one ever really died, and you never saw anyone actually get hit. They were the world's worst shots on both sides.
Worse than stormtroopers.
I think they went to stormtroopers, school to learn how to shoot. But they had that element. I mean, it was all very military, but it wasn't like super heavy-handed. But you just kind of picked up the lingo and got on board. And I knew who Sergeant Slaughter was from G.I. Joe before I ever saw him in the WWF. When I saw him, I'm like, this is Sergeant Slaughter from G.I. Joe, and then he turned out to be a real bad guy and supported the Iraq War during the first Gulf War. And that was my run.
That was my run home from school to make sure that I got to catch G.I. Joe show. That was like I hurried home to make sure I got the first of that.
Yes. So that was my number 6. My number 5 is a more recent movie. It's Rogue One, and the reason why I put this in here, because
why did I not put that on my list?
Because of all the Star Wars movies, I mean, you've got the Empire, right? You got right. See, Hold on,
I need to shuffle my list.
Nope, too late. Too late. You could pick any Star Wars movie and you could say, okay, because you've got the Empire and you've got the Death Star, right? And you've got basically a military organization, a military wing of the Galactic Senate that's trying to wipe out. But in Rogue One, though, you have this small band of rebels, these freedom fighters, basically, that are going up against a super powerhouse, and it's also kind of a a heist movie because they're trying to steal the plans for the Death
Right.
Star, and you have this big, huge space battle over Scarif, the planet, and it leads right into kind of where everything else picks up in episode 4. And so I really like this because it definitely has a lot of the military overtones and the military theme there, but it's also kind of a, kind of a intrigue and heist film as well. I love it.
See, I was thinking about putting a Star Wars movie on number 10, just a Star Wars movie, herder. I mean, actually thinking about it, Force Awakens definitely had some big military overtones, so that could have worked. But yeah, I totally didn't even think about Rogue One. That would have been high on my list. So spoiler, it's not on my list.
Right. So that was my number 5. Now let's jump up that salmon ladder another rung to my number 4.
No, you're skipping. It's my number 5.
Oh, what?
Yeah, you got 6 and 5. Yeah, together. No, I haven't done my number 5.
Okay,
you're trying to steal from me.
My
It's
bad.
my
My
rung.
bad.
I'm the salmon.
Dang it.
I'm the salmon now.
You're number 5.
My number 5, Starship Troopers.
Ooh,
One of the
I
most
like.
bad to grab your swear sci-fi movies ever. Just guns and propaganda and over the top crap that actually had some. I think it had some depth to it. I'm not going to try to say it was it wasn't an Empire Strikes Back, but
Right.
it was very satirical of our military environment as well. So
Yes. I actually remember the first time I saw that movie when they jumped to the little propaganda films that kind of segue
Yes.
between. I was like, am I watching the wrong movie? Did something just happen?
it's got a Fallout feel to it, kind of like if Fallout was in space.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
Yeah, that was my number 5.
You're number 5, Starship Troopers. I like that film. Okay, what's your number 4?
This is where I'm going to get the death threats. Many, many death threats. Transformers, Michael Bay.
Boo! What?
This is where I feel oppressed by my nerd culture friends. I'm sorry, but
Okay.
But I happen to
explain
love
this to me.
I love the over-the-top Michael Bay stuff. I'm not
Okay.
trying to say it has any substance to it whatsoever, but as far as action movie kind of stuff, I love it. And to see the Transformers in live action over the top was just, oh my God, glorious. But one of the biggest reason I like Transformers is the level of detail that he put into making sure he got the military stuff right. You have the Air Force guys that are in there, and they're in the tracking centers and all that kind of thing, and you've got the plane crews and all that stuff. He actually brought on the U.S. Air Force to provide consulting for a very significant amount of time. And all the Air Force people that don't have main lines are actual Air Force airmen who were brought on.
Really?
Yeah. They were paid extra, so it wasn't on military time. So legitimate airmen that were brought in to do airman jobs. And I think that approach is phenomenal. I think it gives a lot of props to the Air Force, Chair Force. They need some props. Love Air Force guys.
I did love the first Transformers movie. The second one was when it went downhill for me. So I did like the first one. And you are right. Now that you're saying this, I was thinking, there actually was a lot of military in that first one.
Yeah. And I think that part of it brought it home for me and made it more of a realistic movie. This wasn't just, some fantastical sci-fi thing. It had some bearing in reality to, how would we approach that? And who are the people that would be responding to it? How would they be dealing with it? That kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right.
So suck it, internet.
So that's your number 4.
That's my number 4.
All right, my number 4, HBO miniseries Band of Brothers. This is based on the 1991 Stephen Ambrose book called Band of Brothers, which I've read the book. It's great because it's a depiction of the 101st Airborne in World War II dropping into France, and then kind of, it actually starts off with them in boot camp, but then them going into France and their kind of missions. And like the book, it follows Captain Winters for a good portion of it, but then the book kind of, diverges a little bit and follows some of the other characters, and then it ends up tying back. I really, really, really liked Band of Brothers. I felt like it's a really good portrayal of the military and of some military tactics that they showed, because there was tactics that it was not invented maybe, but discovered by Captain Winters during World War II that are still taught today. And that's, I really loved Band of Brothers. I just loved it.
Band of Brothers would have been my number 11. Now I know it's my number 12 because Rogue One would have slipped in there somewhere. So further spoiler, it's not on my list. But it was, honestly, it's funny because Band of Brothers was my baseline. Like reviewing this, I'm like, I've got to fit Band of Brothers in there. So do I like Band of Brothers more than Predator, Stargate, Aliens? And I actually checked against each of those to see if it was like, am I really forcing it out? Really close to my top. It is a fantastic series. It was actually the first HBO series that I ever actually watched. So,
yeah, I loved it. Okay, my number 3. This is a video game.
Okay,
and it's not like a Call of Duty video game, which would be.
I was about to throw my pen at you, which would have sucked because you're not here, and it would have broke my monitor.
No, this is Halo Combat Evolved, the first Halo game.
Okay,
because you have this whole thing where a ring world shows up. It's threatening to release, the Flood and these aliens, the Covenant. And so what do? We send in basically a special forces operative to infiltrate and to try to destroy this. It's heavily military. It's a first-person shooter, which most of those games definitely have the military feel to it.
Right.
But you get to play as basically a super soldier, John Spartan, and you are Master Chief. And I mean that's just your name. Like you find out his name is John much later in the series, but like you're Master Chief, and
John Wick.
These missions. Right, exactly. and he's got an AI that he can, that uploads information to him and like talks to him, and it's got all the perks. I mean, you've got the radar, so you can see where enemies are, and you've got all the different weapons, and it very much has a militaristic feel, but it's sci-fi military,
right.
and I love that. Like I am a sucker for sci-fi military kind of stuff.
Nice.
That's my number 3.
I like Halo. I'm not a first-person shooter guy. I haven't followed the Halo franchise forever, but I did have several hours of fun with the first Halo.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it fits. Well done. My number 3 is one of the few realistic military movies out there, real world military, Black Hawk Down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Having served in Kuwait, there were definitely some things that kind of were near and dear. The environments and some of the scenes in there were a little jarring. I don't have PTSD or anything, but a
little too close to home.
A little too close to home. And one of the first scenes, they have like all the tanks firing off the berms, and it was just like it sucked me back in. But the story was engaging and gripping enough to kind of keep me there. And I think if you had told me what the movie was about before I'd watched it, I would have stayed away from it. But it was just put together so well that, I mean, it was really a mystery, right? And some cover-up stuff, and the helicopter scenes. Just, I was on a tank, but I was in a scout unit, so I got to do some helicopter stuff as well. It just really was like, it wasn't my story, but there were just some really interesting intersections with things that I did when I was in the military that it hooked me there, but the story kept me going. I love it. Definitely worthy of top 3 for me.
Nice. I do like that movie. It actually would have been like in my 11 or 12 position. Because there's a lot of good stuff out there to choose from.
Not many people I know actually even remember Black Hawk Down or anything, but that one stuck with me quite a bit.
Yeah.
It didn't stay around in theaters very long. It doesn't have like a big following anymore, but I don't know. That for me, that was a good movie.
Okay.
My number 2, however, is widely heralded as one of the best war movies of all time, and that is Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, I love that
That
movie.
first part of the movie where they're storming the beach and all the bullet shots and everything, and it's just like it made me feel like I'm caught in slow motion on the beach with them, and you just kind of feel the bullets ripping through the people on the screen. And then like every act of that movie, of which there's more than 3, was just so well done. And the story of like they have this soldier and they find him, but like you would expect maybe, oh, let's bring him home, where it's kind of like oh, great, now we're stuck with you. You're a burden. You better pull your weight and all this going on. And one of the best performances I've ever seen from Tom Hanks. I love Tom Hanks, at least up until a few years ago. I think he's kind of gone dry a little bit. I have not seen the one where he landed the plane. Can't remember the name of that. Anyway.
Sully?
Yes.
Yeah.
But Saving Private Ryan was beautiful. I think it was worthy of every bit of praise that it got. Holocaust awareness, just holy crap, that movie just blows me away every time I see it. And I've watched that movie a lot. And then that one spark of color with the girl with the dress, that was just eerie.
Isn't the one spark of color the girl with the dress? That's Schindler's List.
Oh,
the little girl in the red dress.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Disregard. Sorry. Misremembering. Holocaust awareness. Oops. Sorry. I just kind of blended from one thing to another. Sorry.
No, that's fine because Schindler's List is a great movie.
It is.
It actually did not make my list because it's not super
yeah,
military.
I wouldn't have...
It's a great World War II story,
yes.
and it's definitely on the Holocaust awareness and whatnot. I mean, that's a tearjerker. But it didn't make my list because of...
Wow, I don't even know how I went
military.
from one to the other there. That's weird.
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan had nothing to do with that little girl.
Right. Train of consciousness, just kind of went there. Okay, so my number 2 is actually Star Trek II Wrath of Khan.
Ooh.
Because I love that movie so much. And I'm not going to go into great detail now because I think we've already kind of covered it a little earlier. But I love what Nicholas Meyer did. I love all the Navy-inspired military stuff that he put into that. And and besides that, it's just a fantastic freaking movie.
Yeah, I think my top 8 could get shuffled around depending on my mood any given day. And there are days where Wrath of Khan will be the top. It was my favorite movie, indisputably, for a long time.
Right. Yep. Okay, so my number 1 is
I'm
your
curious.
number 2. I have Saving Private Ryan as my number 1.
Wow.
It is an amazing, amazing, amazing movie on its own. But I remember talking to my grandfather who served in World War II. He didn't storm the beaches of Normandy. He was in the Pacific. He was on a ship, the USS California. But I remember talking to him about it, and I remember him saying that, he knew so many boys that he grew up with that had that experience on Omaha Beach or, Utah Beach, in Normandy at that time. And he said that he would talk to these, buddies of his, these kids he grew up with, and that's exactly how they would describe it. Just like hell on earth until they were able to secure the beachhead.
And it was literally, the strategy was throw as many bodies at the problem as possible to soak it and just keep making advances and making advances. And it's brutal and heart-wrenching and just, God, they pulled that together so well in that movie.
And so I really love this movie, and I love the portrayal of the brotherhood amongst the soldiers, that get kind of pulled in, right? Because they're kind of from a bigger group, like a bigger platoon that hits the beach, and they kind of get whittled down, obviously. And then, they kind of grab some of the, guys from this other company and whatnot. And then they go and they make this trek further into France to rescue Private Ryan because his mother had lost 3 sons already that day. And so, the War Department says, you got to save this guy. You got to go find him. And you see the brotherhood of these guys, why are we doing this? Why are we saving this guy? This guy better be worth it. And then when they finally find the guy doesn't want to leave because his group, his platoon, his company that he's with, that's his family. Those are his brothers. And so he's not going to leave them because they have to hold that bridge, and it's a strategic point. And so the other guys, that came to find him end up, helping and holding on.
If they ever bring this back in theaters, we are going to see that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I love this movie. And what I really loved about this, besides, it's a World War II story and it's, the greatest generation and all of that, is that at the very end of that movie, Tom Hanks has a line when he looks at Matt Damon when he says, "Earn this."
Right.
Earn this. Because basically his way of saying is we're all giving our lives up for you. You need to live up to this. You need to earn this moment for the rest of your life. And so then they show him at the very, very end, right? And he's in Arlington and he's looking at all the graves, and you see the old man has broken down, right? And he's crying, and his family, all that all came with him rushed up, and he turns to his wife and he's like, "What, am I a good man? Did I live a good life?" And I have not gone through that experience. Like, even now I have a hard time, like, not tearing up just thinking of that moment, because I guess maybe in a way because my dad's not here anymore. And so, like, I don't know why I make that connection, but my dad's not here anymore. And, like, I know that I want to live up to be, like, half the man he was, right? So this idea of, like, I want to live up to something. I want to aspire to something and make sure my life was of value. And then I pass something on to my boys. And, like, that kind of theme is hit in that movie. Like, he wants to know that everything that these men did and sacrificed for him, that it was worth it. Like, he did something with his life, and you see all his huge family that's kind of there with him. And it's a very touching, emotional moment. I love that movie.
Well, at the end, when you're looking at the end of your life, what do you have besides validation?
Right.
That's it. Because, I mean, nothing you take with you, so it's your name that lives on, and what is that name worth?
Right.
So,
and what have you done with that time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's my number one.
Oh,
what is
God,
what
you
is
got
your
me
number
all
one,
choked
Stu?
up. Now I'm done. I'm going to go cry. I'm going to cry in the corner. Well, my number one is a lot less tear-jerking. Thanks, jerk.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
I'm actually surprised my number one is not in your top 10 list. Battlestar Galactica.
Oh.
Of course, the modern. I did like the older one, but that is nowhere near top 10 material. But come on. That was like, from the opening scenes of the very first episode, the approach that they had to physics in space, even though there really shouldn't be any sound, it was still kind of muted. Like, it was acknowledging that you shouldn't be able to hear this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was like they were pulling off some stuff in space, like through the whole series, that just crazy. Like, the writers of the show, the director, they understood that they were dealing in space. It wasn't just flying with 3 dimensions. It was taking advantage of how is your ship going to be able to move with thrusters, and what's the reaction going to be to the physics and the bullets hitting the Cylon ships or vice versa. The approach to Cylons in general. Just both. I was actually, I mean, the clones, the human clones, whatever, great. I actually loved that the Cylon Raiders were Cylons themselves.
Yes.
And it was just like the evolution of what is it going to mean to be, an AI base and evolve into something. And that was there. And then they had the actual nods to the original series. You saw the original Centurions in there.
Yep.
And the whole journey through space. And oh my God, the military aspects of that were so well done with the esprit de corps. It was ridiculous. The struggle of the young Adama dealing with the conflict between military and political and self. The character arcs were brilliant. I happen to love Starbuck. He was actually the one character I didn't like in the original series, so I was not one of those that was offended by the fact that she's a girl now. But she pulled it off. She would kick your ass.
Yeah.
Just, man, all the characters, everything about that. Up until the plot of the last half of the last season.
Yeah.
The Angels thing was a bit much.
Yeah.
But, I feel like they went off on a lost tangent there. But, oh my God, I'm going to watch that again tonight.
Dude, you just rolled a hard 6 for me. I mean, I loved that show. I don't even know why I didn't even think of that.
The same reason Rogue One didn't hit mine.
Yeah, maybe just like, the frame of mind I was in, but I loved the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. I even watched, what was the name of that show that they did? It was kind of like the spinoff that was like 20 years before that. They did on Sci-Fi. Capricorn.
Yes.
Capricorn. I even watched that, and like that wasn't as good, but like I still wanted it to be good.
Yeah.
And I know they were going to do another spinoff they talked about for a while called Blood and Chrome.
They did that.
They did that, but like it was only like a little mini series, right?
It was originally like a 2-parter on Sci-Fi, and then they made it into one on the DVD set.
Yeah.
And they had like the one that focused on the Pegasus. I mean, there were a couple of them that they had a spinoff every other season. They actually had some webisodes in between some of the seasons that were just kind of like when they were in the war camp. Like they had some of those where it was like kind of like an insider view of the war camp conditions and all kind of. There was just enough on the fringe of that got my interest, but just the show by itself.
I gotta find where that's at online. It's got to be somewhere.
Where what is?
It's like because it's not on Netflix anymore, so I'm like maybe it's on Hulu or Amazon. I gotta go take a look.
The series. It's on Amazon now.
Oh, okay.
It's on Prime.
Dang, Brita just accused me the other day of like, we need to watch some new series. And she's like, you keep going back to stuff you love. And I'm like,
Doesn't matter.
I'm like, I know, we'll start something new. And I'm like, I promise.
That was such a hard binge. Like, have you seen the Portlandia episode? One more episode?
No.
It's a So are you even familiar with Portlandia?
Not at all.
Okay, so it's these two, I can't even remember the actors' names. Anyway, it's this male and this female, Jeff Armiston. It's a skit, it's a comedy skit show where they have these recurring characters through all the seasons. Anyway, there's one episode, though, where they're sitting there at home and they're starting to watch Battlestar Galactica. And, like, they just go through this series of transitions, like, okay, now, well, we just got the power bill and they're going to shut off our electricity in a couple days. We should go take care of that. Oh, but one more episode. And like get through the whole thing. And it's just like the series ends and they're like, so they hunt down like one of the writers of the show. Anyway, if you see no other episode of Portlandia, that's the one. I'll find the episode number and you've got to watch it on Netflix.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's how I felt. I couldn't stop watching it.
So good. So let's recap. I'm going to go my 10 to 1 real fast. So American Sniper number 10, Hunt for October number 9, Top Gun number 8, Terminator number 7, G.I. Joe number 6, Rogue One 5, Band of Brothers 4, Halo Combat Evolved 3, Star Trek II Wrath of Khan 2, and number 1, Saving Private Ryan. And give me your top 10 recap.
It's funny I didn't put any games on there, but I don't have any fun military games that I play. Number 10, Predator. 9, Stargate. 8, Aliens. 7, Star Trek II Into Darkness. 6, Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. 5.5, Rogue One. 5, Starship Troopers. 4, Transformers. 3, Black Hawk Down. 2, Saving Private Ryan. And 1, Battlestar Galactica.
BSG.
Oh, yeah.
So Super Friends, these are our 2 top 10 lists of military-themed movies, obviously with Memorial Day coming up. Our question of the week is we want to hear from you. What are your top 3 military movies? We're not going to ask for a top 10 because that'd be really lengthy.
We're not going to read them all.
Yeah, but give us your top 3 military movies and or video games or
military
books.
Inspired.
Yes,
Influenced.
military inspired. Like I said, TV shows, whatever. Give us your top 3. You can reach us at all the usual places. Email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. You can get us on Twitter, which is @fortofnerd. Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd. Or you can give us a call and leave us a voicemail, which is 801-477-7687. And we will read your answers next week. We hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend. I hope that you take the opportunity to remember why Memorial Day weekend is a holiday and why we celebrate it.
And remember, donate to the Fallen Patriot Ride.
Yes, please,
or ride,
please,
or ride with the Fallen Patriot Ride.
Yeah, or ride. I know I've got one coworker that was asking me about it just this weekend. So,
well, I hope my buddy Brad makes it out there. But for everyone riding, be safe, please.
Yes.
But thank you all for what you guys are doing there.
Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you.
Always.